Have you ever had to stand up against unfair treatment? How did it change you or the ones around you? The hallway buzzed with the sharp clatter of locker doors and voices dripping with false humor and harsher truths. Lena Thompson stood in the center, her figure tall but shrinking under the glare of unforgiving eyes. Bright fluorescent lights cast a clinical glow, dividing shadows and highlights like the fractured hopes held within her chest. She felt the weight of the world as the room tightened, every glance a needle prick, every whispered joke a twisting blade. Her handcrafted dress, a riot of hand-sewn vibrant fabrics and dreams, caught the harsh light and then their cruel attention. Each stitch was a testament to her heritage and her unapologetic vision, a bold declaration in a sea of conformity. But to Jessica Harding and her circle, it was a target. A sudden surge of frantic laughter swept through the crowd as Jessica, poised and venomous, stepped forward. Her fingers danced cruelly over the fabric with deliberate reverence, then with a swift, merciless pull, tore through the seams. The dress screamed against her fingers, a silent cry swallowed by the cacophony. "Look at this," Jessica taunted, her voice slicing through the corridor. "Really? You think you belong here dressed like that?" Lena's breath hitched. The world blurred as the pieces of her labor fell like shattered glass to the linoleum floor. Her hands instinctively reached to grasp what remained, but the shards were sharp, impossible to mend in the blink of a sneer. A voice near her whispered, mocking, "Cold, you're a joke, Thompson." Her eyes welled, the sparkling tears threatening to spill, the sting not just of ruined fabric but of shattered dignity. The crowd's laughter grew louder, a storm echoing her humiliation, the warmth of belonging extinguished in an instant. The corridor seemed to narrow as she squeezed past, the bright, harsh lights now a spotlight isolating her to the marrow. Each footstep was unsteady yet resolute, carrying her away from the torment toward a silence so deafening it pressed against her skin. She found refuge by a cracked mirror in the corner, the fractured glass a cruel mimic of her own splintered reflection. Her eyes searched the shardstall, slender eyes like windows to a fierce soul, eyes dimmed by pain but unextinguished. Lena's fingers traced the edge of a torn fabric piece, the hand-sewn pattern a mantra of resilience. The fabric was more than cloth, it was her spirit woven through with color and strength. Outside the window, the afternoon sun fought to break through the veil of gray clouds, casting a muted glow on the schoolyard where others laughed and carried on, oblivious. The broken mirror and ruined fabric whispered a silent challenge, that beneath the pain rose a promising fight yet to come. The camera lingered on Lena's face, a study in raw vulnerability and awakening resolve, before the corridor emptied, leaving a space filled with quiet potential and simmering defiance. The bell's sharp clang reverberated down the corridor, but Lena hardly noticed. She pressed her back against the cold blue lockers, the fragmented remnants of her dress clutched silently in her fists. The jagged edges of torn fabric bit into her palms, awash with sharp stings that mirrored the ache spiraling within. Around her, the hallway throbbed with the residual echoes of laughter mocking, crueling the heavy shuffle of departing footsteps fading like a merciless retreat. In the aftermath, a crushing silence enveloped her, thick as fog settling over the deserted hallway. Pale fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a spectral glow that softened the sharp edges of humiliation but did nothing to dull the raw sting beneath her skin. She swallowed hard, the bitter taste of tears unfallen mixing with the faint scent of disrupted fabric and antiseptic hulls. Her gaze lowered to the crumpled scraps, a kaleidoscope of colors and dreams now reduced to tatters, a ruin of self-expression wrought by scorn. For a long moment, Lena's eyes shimmered, not with tears but a flicker of something more complex, a simmering anger buried beneath layers of shame and disbelief. The distant murmur of voices reached her ears. They were no longer laughter but whispered secrets weaving webs of gossip and suspicion. Each name she heard tied to a shadow of a doubt about who belonged and who was an outsider. It was not just the dress they destroyed, it was her spirit, her identity, her place in this cruel social tapestry. Her hands trembled, clutching the fabric against her heart as if trying to hold herself together in fragments she was unsure could be healed. A silence wrapped around her like a cold cloak, a private moment of reckoning in a world indifferent to pain. Then, almost imperceptibly, a breath caught deep within her chest. It was subtle yet potent, a whisper of defiance threading through the heavy silence. The fabric, vibrant even in ruin, spoke of a culture rich with resilience and beauty, a testament not just to who she was but to who she could become. Behind closed doors, her mother's voice lingered like a balm, steady and warm. They may try to unravel you, Lena, but remember, threads you weave carry the legacy of those who came before you. The hallway's chill was replaced by a flicker of warmth, fragile yet insistent. Lena's fingers lightly traced the edge of a torn patch, an intricately embroidered piece she had sewn late into the night, a symbol of her heritage. Her eyes caught the glint of a cracked mirror across the corridor, its fractured surface reflecting distorted fragments of a girl torn between fear and fierce resolve. For a heartbeat, she met her own Gazia's silent vow forming between the shattered shards. She would rise. The corridor was still, holding its breath as Lena lifted her head slowly, widened her eyes, and took a tentative step forward, her silhouette etched against the sterile luminescence. This was not an end but the turning of a wheel, fragile and trembling with possibility. The fight was only beginning, and somewhere deep in the shadows beyond the hallway lurked the threads of a new story yet to be woven. The late afternoon sunlight filtered through the cracked window of Lena's cramped bedroom, the rays casting golden streaks across the worn hardwood floor. Dust motes danced in the quiet air, their gentle dance a stark contrast to the storm within her chest. Lena sat curled on the edge of her bed, grasping a piece of fabric crumpled in her hand, a remnant of her destroyed dress. The scrap was unlike any she'd made before. It bore an embroidered symbol she hadn't noticed before, stitched delicately into the hem, its threads forming enigmatic, twisting patterns that seemed alive with a silent purpose. Her fingers traced the cryptic emblem, the texture rough against her skin, yet stirring something deep inside, a seed of curiosity, a flicker of hope amid the wreckage of yesterday's humiliation. The colors of the fabric, still bold despite the tear, pulsed like a heartbeat beneath her touch, a vibrant testament to her heritage, her resilience, and the unextinguished fire of her dreams. In the quiet sanctuary of her room, the cacophony of the school's judging whispers faded into a hushed symphony of light and shadow. The broken mirror across the room reflected not just her image, but the fractures within the parts of herself fragmented by pain, yet yearning to mend. Lena's emerald eyes met their own gaze in the fractured glass, a glimpse into her soul's turmoil and strength. A tear traced a silent path down her cheek, catching the sunlight as it fell, glimmering like a shard of broken glass reflecting infinite possibilities. The worn tapestry of her emotions was vivid and raw, shame and isolation interlaced with the quiet birth of defiance. The fabric in her hands was no longer just a remnant, it became a symbol, a talisman connected to dreams larger than herself, threads weaving a new narrative. A sudden knock at the door broke the fragile stillness. Her mother's gentle voice seeped through, warm and steady. "Lena, may I come in?" The soft footsteps crossed the threshold, and a comforting presence entered. Her mother's eyes, deep pools of unwavering love and wisdom, met Lena's. No words were needed. A quiet understanding passed between them, both weighed and lifted by unspoken strength. She sat beside her daughter, offering a folded piece of paper, an old family note inscribed with a phrase Lena had never fully grasped until now. "In the fabric of our souls, strength is sewn with threads of courage and hope." The afternoon light shifted, bathing the room in warm hues. Lena clutched the note, her heart kindling with a silent promise. The pain of yesterday had not vanished, but within it stirred a new resolve. Her gaze drifted again to the cracked mirror, now catching a flicker of radiant light, as if the broken fragments held not just despair but the fragile beginnings of renewal. And as the day drew to a close, the camera lingered on Lena's poised silhouette, tall, slender, vibrant, standing at the threshold of transformation. Behind her, The torn fabric lay softly on the bed, no longer just a symbol of destruction, but the first stitch in a tapestry of hope and courage yet to be woven. The scene closed with the soft glow of dusk embracing the room, a silent, powerful beat of resilience, propelling Lena forward into the uncertain but unbreakable journey ahead. The afternoon sun slanted through the tall windows of the school's art room, casting long, warm stripes that danced upon the faded wooden floor. Inside, Lena Thompson sat at a scratched table surrounded by canvases splashed with bold strokes of color and unfinished sketches. There was a quiet hum of engagement, the soft scratch of pencils, the subtle scraping of brushes against textured paper, a stark contrast to the cacophony of the school hallways outside. Her slender fingers traced a fresh swath of vibrant fabric she held in her hands, vivid reds and blues woven tightly, a silent mantra of resilience stitched into every thread. This fabric, new and unapologetic, was a stark rebuke to the destruction she had endured. Around her, the soft murmur of the art club's supportive voices buoyed her spirit, a lifeline in the ocean of hostility that was her world. "You've got talent, Lena," whispered Marcus, a quiet boy whose eyes reflected both empathy and cautious hope. She looked up, meeting his gaze, a brief spark of connection in a sea of uncertain faces. "Thanks," she breathed, a flicker of courage kindling inside her. It was small but potent, like the first brush of wind before a storm. Yet, beneath the hopeful glow, shadows still lurked. Each small victory was tempered by the memory of Jessica's lingering glare, the biting snickers that followed her down the halls, and the whispered lies that sought to limit her reach. One afternoon, as Lena walked through the hallways, carrying a portfolio filled with her designs, she overheard a harsh whisper behind a locked classroom door. Words floated out distorted, cruel, about the futility of fighting a system rigged with bias and power. "She thinks she can change this place? That's rich." The voice, cold and mocking, sent a jolt through her. Her heart pounded as she clenched her fists, fingernails biting into her palms, the distant rattling of lockers like a battle drum. The school hallway had become a battleground, a place where dreams clashed with the bitter teeth of prejudice. Later that day, in the sanctuary of her room, Lena unfurled a piece of torn fabric she had found wedged between the pages of an old buka symbol stitched into its fibers that she couldn't yet decipher, but that pulsed with a mysterious energy. Holding it close, she allowed herself a moment of silent hope. Her mother's words drifted back to her, a soothing balm in the storm. "Remember, child, your dreams are threads of power, woven from the strength of your ancestors." The crisp evening air seeped through the cracked window, carrying with it the distant hum of life beyond her world, stories yet untold, battles yet to be fought. Lena closed her eyes, inhaling deeply, the scent of rain on hot pavement mingling with the scent of fabric and determination. In that suspended moment between shadow and light, the camera lingered on Lena's face, a portrait of fragile defiance and dawning resolve. And as the last light slipped beneath the horizon, the school's heartbeat seemed to pulse alongside hers, an undiscovered anthem swelling with courage and the promise of change. The scene faded, leaving the viewer poised on the cusp of a fight far greater than just one girl's dreams, a battle for justice, identity, and the reclamation of hope. The soft murmur of voices in the art room felt distant, the laughter of Lena's new allies a fragile thread connecting her to a world still worth fighting for. But beneath the warmth of newfound support, tension simmered. Trust, a delicate fragile weave, began to unravel. One day, during a quiet afternoon, Lena found herself seated beside Maya, a girl with bright eyes and a quick smile who had been her closest confidant in the art club. They worked on a vibrant tapestry of their own design, fingers weaving threads of color in hopeful patterns. Suddenly, Maya's expression shifted, clouded with uncertainty. "Lena, I don't know if we should keep pushing this. Some things are bigger than us," she said softly, her voice carrying a hesitance that bit deeper than any insult. Lena's gaze narrowed, searching for the familiar spark of solidarity. "What do you mean?" Maya glanced around, then whispered, "Jessica's been talking. She's got others listening. Some of US people I trusted think it's safer to step back. The words slammed into Lena's chest, a crushing blow veiled in shadows. Betrayal was a bitter tide, one she had feared but had yet to taste so acutely. Her fingers clenched, threads slipping from her grasp like fleeting hope. Later, as she moved through the school's winding hallways, the long battleground where her dreams clashed with prejudice and fear, she caught fragments of overheard conversations. Voices like knives edged with venom spoke of silencing the unrest, of subduing voices like hers that dared to challenge the established order. In the midst of these swirling forces, Lena's thoughts turned to the symbol stitched in that mysterious fabric she had found, an emblem not only of personal heritage but of collective strength. It pulsed in her mind as a beacon, urging her to stand taller amid the encroaching darkness. One chilly afternoon, Lena lingered in front of the cracked mirror in the art room, a reflection fragmented but defiant. Her green eyes held questions and grief, but also a fiery reluctance to surrender. The room's muted light softened the hard lines of her pain, wrapping her in a cocoon of fragile determination. Suddenly, a voice called from the doorway, a new ally with guarded eyes but steady hands. "Lena," the voice said, "there's a group. Others like us who refuse to be silenced." Her heartbeat quickened, a mixture of hope and fear swirling in the quiet space. That evening, beneath the fading amber sky, Lena stood outside the school, clutching the fabric piece close to her heart. The gentle wind whispered through the fading day, mingling with thoughts of courage and doubt. As streetlights flickered on and shadows stretched long, a distant argument spilled into earshot, voices speaking harsh truths about hidden complicity, about the administration's silent consent to injustice. Lena's breath caught. The fight was larger, deeper, more dangerous than she had imagined. The school hallways, once just a place of torment, had become a battleground for change. The camera lingered on her face as she watched a broken street lamp buzz uncertainly, its flickering light a fragile pulse in the encroaching darkness. In that unresolved moment, the weight of betrayal and the spark of rebellion intertwined, setting the stage for the next, perilous steps in her journey. The school loomed silent around her, the evening deepening into a tense, shimmering promise of both challenge and awakening. The hallway stretched long and cold under the pallid glow of fluorescent lights that flickered sporadically, like hesitant embers resisting the encroaching darkness. Lena's footsteps echoed softly measured but heavy, her breath a shallow rhythm betraying the storm within. In her hand, she clutched the remnant of fabric, now more than just cloth. It bore a cryptic symbol, a mysterious thread woven deep into her story. She stumbled to the cracked mirror at the far end of the hall, its surface fractured like her spirit, multiple shards reflecting glimpses of doubt, resilience, and an urgent need for clarity. In the mirror, her eyes once bright with hope wavered as they met her own shattered reflection. The symbol stitched on the fabric seemed to pulse, whispering secrets just beyond reach. A sudden murmur drifted from a nearby door, abrupt, urgent. Lena's breath caught as she pressed her ear against the cool wood, catching fragments of a conversation that shattered her fragile trust. Administration's hands are deeper in this than anyone suspects. They're covering it up. Racist incidents, bullying. It's all swept away. No one dares to speak. The words hung in the air like a suffocating fog, thick with betrayal and complicity. Lena's heart hammered with a cocktail of fear and defiance. The battleground she had stepped onto was vast, its contours shadowed by the very institutions sworn to protect her. She stepped back, the weight of isolation and anger pressing down, yet within the tempest, a spark ignited. The fights were no longer about her, they were about justice for countless unheard voices trapped in the margins of silence. Days blurred into nights as Lena's world shrank to a flickering screen and whispered conspiracies. Then came the day of loss, the sabotage. Her meticulously crafted designs were shredded, slashed with merciless precision, displayed mockingly on the school bulletin board. The betrayal shattered friendships, whispered lies that accompanied the destruction devastated her. At the center of this cruel display, a note was pinned, its message unmistakable: silence or fall. Tears welled but did not fall. Instead, they hardened within her resolve. The broken mirror at home, once a symbol of fractured identity, now illuminated the path forward. She saw herself not as a victim but a beacon, her fabric, her designs, her very story a declaration of resistance. In the quiet that followed, an unexpected ally emerged. A note slipped quietly into her locker, bearing the same cryptic symbol embroidered on her tattered fabric and a message that trembled with a promise: "You are not alone." Lena's hands trembled, heart swelling with a fragile hope. The walls of the school no longer held just torment but whispered of an underground network, students and teachers secretly fighting the injustices that stained the halls. Her fighter's spirit, tempered by pain and illuminated by new light, steeled for the battle ahead. The camera held on Lena's determined gaze, a flicker of fire in darkened eyes, as she stepped away from the mirror, the cracked glass catching the light in fractured rainbows, a testament to fractured pasts and the promise of refracted futures. The school bell echoed, a clarion call amid shadows, propelling her toward a fight that was no longer hers alone, but a collective uprising yearning for justice and profound change. The late afternoon sky pressed low, heavy with the threat of rain, as Lena Thompson sat alone in the back corner of the art room. The once vibrant colors of her paintings, the proud flourish of threads and hues, had been tainted by sabotage, slashed and defaced in a calculated act of cruelty. Her hands rested limply on the damaged canvas before her, the sting of betrayal sharper than the jagged cuts across her work. Around her, the room felt cold, emptied of warmth and hope. The faint hum of the air conditioning was swallowed by the weight of silence, a pitiless void where encouragement once lived. Her classmates moved past, eyes averted or filled with thinly veiled contempt, the familiar faces of former allies now masks of estrangement. Her chest tightened with a breathless ache, a deep wound carved by the sharp tongues and colder intentions of those who sought to diminish her voice. The girl who once brimmed with hope and creativity now stared through glistening eyes at a reflection shattered like the broken mirror hung in the school hallway, a cruel echo of fractured identity and loss. The door creaked, the sound stark and foreboding. Jessica Harding entered, her smile thin and triumphant, eyes gleaming with the power her manipulation wielded. "Another masterpiece lost," she said, voice laced with venom. "Maybe next time you'll learn to stay in your place." Lena's jaw clenched tight. The words hung like chains around her spirit, binding her in a suffocating grip. The room's shadows seemed to constrict, walls closing in as the fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting cold pools of blue and gray that smeared across her skin like the weight of despair. No words came from Lene, only a slow, shuddering exhale, a quiet surrender to the storm raging inside. The broken artwork before her was more than lost creativity. It was a symbol of a purpose slipping through her fingers, a spiraling descent into isolation. Her gaze drifted to the shattered mirror at the far end of the room, where her fractured image stared back, eyes blurring with tears she refused to fall. The reflection was a haunting reminder of battles fought and nearly lost. Outside, the sky finally cracked open, rain pelting the window in relentless sheets, echoing the tears unspilled beneath Lena's calm facade. The coldness seeped into the room, chilling every corner, every fragile hope. In that silent moment, the art room ceased to be a sanctuary and became a tomb for a spirit weighed down by betrayal and solitude. The camera pulled back slowly, the frame widening to capture Lena alone amidst the wreckage of her dreams, the storm outside mirrored by the tempest within. And as the rain poured down mercilessly, so too did the weight of a world fractured by injustice settle heavily upon her, her journey teetering on the edge of oblivion, the fight slipping away like fabric torn beyond repair. The dense shadows of dusk crept into the edges of Lena Thompson's small room, swallowing the weak light of a solitary desk lamp that flickered uncertainly against the creeping darkness. A chill hung heavy in the air, the cold seeping through the cracked window panes, curling around her like a spectral presence. The room felt vast and hollow, a cavernous echo chamber mirroring the cavern growing inside her heart. Lena sat motionless on the edge of her bed, her slender fingers trembling as they clutched a tattered scrap of fabric fragmented like her spirit, stained with the remnants of dreams both vivid and betrayed. The 5 hands of harsh rejection had torn through the seams of her self-made dress with brutal precision, leaving her exposed, vulnerable, and shamed beyond measure. The fabric was more than material. It was the tapestry of her identity, a manifestation of a heritage fierce and proud. Now, it lay limp and broken at her feet. She watched it, eyes wide yet hollow, the vibrant colors faded in that small piece, the cryptic symbol embroidered so carefully now sullied and almost inscrutable. In the silence of her room, every thread felt like a severed connection from community, from hope, from the very essence of herself. A faint crack in the mirror caught her peripheral vision, a fracture again staring back with dull indifference. In it, she saw a reflection warped by despair. Tall, graceful, but fractured. Eyes that once gleamed with passion now dimmed with aching silence. Lips pressed tight as if holding back the tide of tears too great to spill. Her breath was shallow, judgments and whispers from school halls reverberating relentlessly in her mind. The voices, the laughter, the mockery, they had not ceased. They had followed her into the very sanctum of retreat, haunting every thought, festering into an all-encompassing isolation. A dull ache throbbed beneath her ribs, the weight of exclusion pressing, pushing, breaking. Her hands dropped the fabric to the floor with a sound soft as a final goodbye. It was a surrender, a quiet admission that the fight had scattered into a bleak wasteland of doubt. She curled inward, knees drawn close, the velvet darkness engulfing her slender form like a shroud. The muffled sounds of the outside world, the sharp horn of distant traffic, the faint buzz of streetlights drifted in, fragile tendrils from a world moving forward without her. Her whisper broke the stillness, barely audible. Maybe this is the end. The lamp flickered once, twice, then dimmed into silence. The room fell into total darkness, save for Luna's faint silver glow spilling through the window as a solitary sentinel, cold and distant. In that vast silence, Lena lay still, suspended between despair and the slimmest thread of awakening, the hollowed echo of self nearly extinguished. And as the night deepened, the camera held on the raw fragility of a spirit caught in the abyss, an unspoken question hanging heavy in the air about where courage might still be found, or if it would be at all. The school, once a battleground, now felt like a tomb, silent except for the faint, haunting pulse of a heart on the verge. The night was quiet but for the faint rustle of city sounds drifting through the cracked window of Lena's room. Her figure was huddled on the floor, the torn remnants of her latest designs strewn around her like fallen leaves, vibrant patches of fabric stained with the bitterness of defeat and neglect. The harsh fluorescent hum of the school corridors seemed worlds away, yet their cold echo still haunted her breast like a distant storm. She lifted a piece of fabric, delicate and stubbornly bright amid the wreckage, tracing the cryptic symbol stitched into the threads, a motif she'd glimpsed before in moments of fleeting hope. Her fingers trembled slightly, hesitating between despair and the faintest flicker of resolve. Memories rushed unbidden, the broken mirror in the school hallway reflecting a fractured self, the first destroyed dress, her mother's steady voice promising strength and legacy. The fabric's colors pulsed quietly under her touch, a whispered reminder that beyond destruction lay creation, beyond silence a voice yet to be heard. A soft thud at the door startled her. She glanced toward the sound, eyes wide, cautious yet yearning. A folded letter slipped under the threshold rested there, its edges worn but the emblem on the seal unmistakable, the same cryptic symbol that clung to her shattered fabric. With fingers that no longer trembled as much, she unfolded the note. The words were few but heavy. You are not alone. We see you, and we stand with you. The room seemed to breathe with her steadying heartbeat, the small space filling with the fragile promise of solidarity. The shadows that pressed in relentlessly began to lift, wafting away on the breath of a new dawn. Her lips parted, voice barely a whisper. Hope isn't lost. The torn fabric lay beside her, a testament to past pain yet active in its silent call for renewal. The broken mirror caught the soft glow of the nightlight, reflecting shards of a girl ready to piece herself anew. Outside, the wind stirred low leaves in the empty schoolyard, a subtle chorus to the quiet courage budding deep within Lena's chest. The camera lingered on her illuminated face, a portrait of determined vulnerability, a spark against the dark. And in that stillness blossomed the fragile possibility of transformation, the first breath of an awakening yet to come. The school's hallway, once a lion's den of whispers and jeers, now seemed less menacing as Lena Thompson stepped into the muted light of dawn. Her silhouette was softened by the warm glow spilling through the tall windows, casting amber pools of hope on the worn linoleum. She paused at the threshold, her tall figure framed in a moment of fragile awakening. The torn remnants of her fabric dress trailed behind her like fleeting shadows of her past struggles, yet in her eyes, a new resolve shimmered like a beacon. The air smelled of rain and renewal, the clouds above parting to reveal streaks of gold slipping over the rooftops. Lena's gaze moved slowly along the corridor, ordinary and yet transformed. Every cracked tile, scuffed wall, and flickering fluorescent light now carried a quiet promise. Her past wound of humiliation, sabotage, and betrayal had left scars, but beneath those scars, a seed of strength took root. She clutched tightly that fragment of fabric with the cryptic symbol or talisman of resilience. The visual texture, rich in culture and dreamshot, had been mangled, but its essence shimmered with deeper meaning now, hope reborn from the wreckage. A faint smile crept across her face, not forced or naive but soft with the awareness that her journey was only beginning. The corridors echoed with the distant footsteps of students and teachers, but Lena moved forward with a quiet, measured confidence, each step a silent declaration. She would no longer be defined by destruction or silence. Her mind flickered back to her mother's words, gentle yet fierce. Your fabric, your dreams, they are woven from the threads of your strength. The memory warmed her like the morning sun, fueling her quiet rebellion. She had faced the storm, public humiliation, betrayal by friends, and the weight of systemic injustice, and she had survived. The school's entrance doors, normally just gateways between classes, now felt like thresholds to a new chapter. The light inside grew warmer as the day dawned fully, casting a golden hue over her figure, a visual metaphor for hope and rebirth. A soft gust of wind rustled the leaves outside, whispering secrets of renewal and the promise that even broken fabric could be sewn anew. Lena paused for a moment, her hand gently brushing the cryptic symbol, a silent affirmation that she retained her identity amid chaos. Light seeped into the darkest corners, illuminating her face, a portrait of cautious optimism and newfound resolve. She understood now. Her fight was far from over, but her spirit, tempered by pain and fueled by hope, had begun to bloom again. As she stepped into the bustling corridor, the camera lingered on her silhouette, poised between shadows and light, symbolic of the first storm of change awakening within her. The moment was fragile yet powerful, a vivid reminder that the journey toward justice and self-discovery had only just begun. The gymnasium lights were dim, shadows pooling over the bleachers as Lena Thompson stepped onto the stage, clutching a bag filled with pieces of her torn fabric, shattered remnants of her dreams and her defiance. Her silhouette, tall and steady, cut through the subdued glow, a beacon of resolve amid the murmuring crowd. Every face in the room reflected a mixture of skepticism and hope, the past barriers still visible in their tense expressions. With a deep breath, Lena set the bag down, unzipping it to reveal the raw fragments, strips of color, jagged edges, stories of pain and perseverance stitched into their fibers. Silence fell, thick and expectant. Her voice emerged softly but clearly, each word infused with unwavering purpose. "This is what they tried to silence," she said, holding up a torn piece, its cryptic symbol faint in the dying light. "Pieces of me they wanted to destroy your stories, our culture, our hopes. But even in fragments, we find strength." The room held its breath as she stepped forward, placing the pieces carefully on a clean white cloth spread across the middle of the stage. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from the sheer weight of her conviction. Every fiber she laid down was a statement, a challenge to those who sought to erase her existence. The truth is, silence will not hide what's been buried. Justice isn't just about the past, it's about how we forge ahead, unafraid to confront our scars. A murmur rippled through the audience, whispered approval, questions, tentative hope. Lena looked up, eyes bright with the fire of purpose. She spoke again, voice rising with renewed strength. We're more than what they see on the surface. We are woven from stories of resilience, pride, and culture. We are fabric strong, vibrant, unbreakable. A person in the crowd, an elder, a community leader who had watched these injustices fester, stepped forward, eyes shining with tears. You have shown us a mirror, Lena. Our reflections are fractured but healing. Your courage has cracked the darkness. His words, simple yet profound, reverberated through the silence. Lena's heart swelled, and she looked at the fragments laid before her, scattered, jagged, yet beautiful in their defiance. Gathering a few pieces, she threaded them together with invisible strength, creating a fragile but meaningful mural open to the light. The moment struck like lightning, an inspiring realization that change begins with one brave act, one voice unchained. Her actions had ignited something within her community, a spark that refused to be extinguished. As she stepped back, the room erupted into applause, more than acknowledgement, a collective vow to carry her message forward. And Lena, panting yet glowing with hope, gazed skyward as the ceiling's flickering bulbs seemed to shimmer brighter, awakening to the dawn of a new chapter. Her journey was only beginning, but the courage she had summoned was a storm large and unstoppable, ready to reshape truth and justice in the face of darkness. The camera lingered on her radiant face, framed by the stage lights, a symbol of resilience, as the scene faded into the silent promise of tomorrow. The grand auditorium shimmered under the warm glow of dawn, filtering through towering stained glass, casting resplendent hues across the assembled crowd. Lena Thompson stood at the center of the stage, her silhouette silhouetted against a backdrop of vibrant banners and painted murals, testaments to resilience and renewal. Her gown, bright teal with accents of gold, flowed gently with her poised breath, symbolizing hope woven from the fragments of her struggles. In her hands, she held a large piece of fabric, once torn and cast aside, now stitched back together into a tapestry of unity and strength. Her eyes, once brimming with doubt, now blazed with a clarity born of fierce conviction. The journey had been brutal, the wounds raw, but the fire within her had been reignited. Today, Lena's voice rang out, steady and unwavering. We show the power of our stories, our wounds, and our dreams. Every ripped thread, every broken piece, has brought us here to this moment of truth. The crowd hushed, engrossed, as she unfurled the fabric, a mural painted with pieces of her torn dress, vibrant patches woven into a collective message of solidarity. Murmurs rippled through the audience, faces reflecting sorrow, courage, hope, each person recognizing their own struggles mirrored in her art. This cloth, Lena continued, was meant to silence us. Instead, it became our shield. Our story isn't just about one girl or one dress. It's about every voice that has been oppressed, every injustice, and our resilience to overcome. Her words cut through the room like a beacon, calling the weary to stand tall. She stepped confidently into the spotlight, eyes sweeping over the faces, students, teachers, community leaders, each touched by her raw vulnerability and unyielding purpose. The symbolic fabric reflected deep personal truths, part of a collective awakening. We are fabric intertwined with courage. We are stitched together by our shared history, our pain, yet also by our hope, refusing to be unraveled by hate and fear. Her hand lifted in a gesture of unity, the mural shimmering in the soft light, a testament to their collective strength. A ripple of applause grew into a thunderous affirmation as Lena nodded, her heart swelling with a quiet, unstoppable power. This was her moment, the culmination of battles fought in silence, of tears shed in darkness, now bursting forth into a dawn of justice. In that luminous silence, The camera lingered on her face, calm, fierce, and unbreakable, before slowly pulling back to reveal the entire crowd united, a visual symphony of hope and resilience. The visual metaphor of the fabric, woven from broken pieces and new threads, fused into a symbol that would inspire generations. The scene faded, leaving an enduring image. Lena, on the precipice of final victory, radiant in her transformation, ready to confront the last barriers, her unshakable purpose etched into the very fabric of their shared future. The early morning light spilled softly over the school grounds, bathing the brick walls and courtyard in a gentle glow that seemed to symbolize renewal. Lena Thompson stood quietly at the entrance, her silhouette framed by a tapestry of blooming flowers and the quiet hum of students arriving in awakening as profound as her own. She carried a small, worn bundle of fabric remnants, now calm and still, symbolizing the hardships faced and the hope reborn. Her gaze lingered on the horizon, where the sky blushed with the promise of a new day. The chaos, bullying, betrayal, systemic injustice had not vanished entirely, but within her heart, a calm, unshakable peace had begun to settle. The weight of past struggles was transformed into a steady, resilient strength. In her expression, there was no longer the trembling uncertainty of earlier days, only a quiet understanding of her growth. The campus around her buzzed with activity, laughter, footsteps, the distant call of teachers preparing for lessons, yet her world felt hushed by a profound introspection. The mural, crafted painstakingly from pieces of her torn fabric, was unveiled the day before, a sprawling tableau of colors and stories, silent yet loud with collective courage and reconciliation. Lena gently touched the fabric, now a testament to resilience stitched together with threads of hope. The symbols of her heritage, once torn apart by hatred, now intertwined into a powerful narrative of unity. Her eyes shimmered with a gentle light, reflecting not just the sunrise but an inner dawn, one that had risen from the depths of despair. A gust of wind brushed past, carrying with it soft scents of jasmine and fresh rain, a soothing reminder that healing is a slow, natural process. Her mother's words echoed softly in her mind, "Your fabric, your legacy woven with courage, patience, and love." Lena drew a steadying breath, the calm washing over her like the quiet after a storm, a moment of silent acknowledgement of her internal rebirth. As she looked at the school battleground of her journey, the possibilities stretched ahead, luminous and uncharted. Her shoulders straightened, her posture poised with renewed purpose, a silent promise behind her calm exterior. The camera panned upward, capturing her profile against the dawn's pastel hues, a symbol of hope and resilience. The scene slowly faded on her standing quietly, a single figure rooted in her newfound strength, the fabric of her past stitched into the fabric of her future. With a final, soft glance at the horizon, Lena stepped forward into the day, ready, at last, to carry the torch of change and justice, her spirit unbreakable and her journey only just beginning. The morning sun cast a gentle, golden glow across the school grounds, illuminating the gathered crowd with a warmth that felt almost mystical. Lena Thompson stood quietly in the center of the courtyard, her silhouette outlined against a backdrop of blooming trees and eager faces. Her eyes shimmered with profound peace, a deep acknowledging of the journey's end and the new beginning quietly blooming within. Her hands cradled the remnants of her fabric pieces stitched together into a massive mural that stretched across the wall behind her, a tapestry of her story and the collective strength of her community. Colorful patches, once torn and discarded, now fused into a symbol of hope and resilience, artwork born from the chaos and the healing process. She allowed her gaze to sweep across the sea of students, teachers, and parents once divided by prejudice and fear, now united by understanding and shared redemption. The mural reflected a powerful truth that hope, like fabric, can be mended, strengthened, and reimagined from the tattered fibers of injustice. Her presence was calm, almost regal, a living testament to the transformation that had taken root here. The air was thick with silent acknowledgement, eyes meeting in slow, meaningful exchanges of forgiveness and unity. The subtle gesture of Lena raising her hand in a modest salute was a silent prayer and vow, an unspoken promise to carry their collective healing forward. With a gentle breath, she stepped back, her heart swelling with a quiet marvel and acceptance not born from naivety but from the hard-won wisdom that true strength lies in forgiveness and understanding. Every scar on her journey, every tear shed, and every betrayal faced had woven her into this moment of profound peace. The scene slowly panned upward, capturing the luminous scythe day's light spilling over the school like a blessing. The camera lingered, emphasizing the symbolic nature of a community once fractured now standing in silent respect, united in purpose. Lena's silhouette motionless against the rising dawn exemplified the quiet yet powerful act of embracing change, of transforming pain into a beacon of hope. The collective breath of the crowd seemed to merge with the gentle whisper of leaves, a hymn of unity echoing through the embodiment of resilience. The moment drew to a close with the image of Lena calm, radiant, and unbreakable standing at the heart of her community, the mural a living monument of courage and renewal. Her journey had been arduous, but her newfound peace was now an enduring legacy and echo of victory that would inspire generations to come. The courtyard bathed in the soft glow of the late afternoon sun, casting long, gentle shadows across the gathering crowd. Lena Thompson stood at its heart, her presence emanating quiet strength and peace amid the murmuring whispers of students, teachers, and community members. Her gaze was serene, holding the depth of a journey that had transformed not just her, but the very fabric of the school community. Before her, the mural stretched wide, a vivid tapestry crafted from fragments of torn fabric, now meticulously sewn into a symbol of collective resilience. Swaths of color intermingled reds and golds, blues and greens, each representing the stories of struggle, hope, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. Lena's hands slowly lifted her gaze to the assembled faces once divided, now united, their eyes reflecting silent acknowledgement, respect, and a future reclaimed. The mural, alive with layered textures and symbolic imagery, was not just art, it was their shared legacy, stitched together through pain, perseverance, and the unbreakable ties of community. A gentle wind stirred the leaves on the nearby trees, carrying whispers of reconciliation and renewal. The air felt thick with emotion, tender and powerful, a pause in the ongoing story of systemic scars healing beneath the soft light. Lena's heart swelled with a quiet humility. Her journey, from devastation to hope, had woven a new chapter, one of courage, of standing tall against injustice. She took a slow, deliberate step forward, her movement solemn yet unshakable. Her silent gaze swept across the crowd, an unspoken exchange of forgiveness, determination, and unity. The moment was delicate, yet enduring, a visual metaphor of the delicate threads that hold a fractured community together, now strengthened. As she reached the center of the gathering, Lena gently placed her hand on the mural, a gesture of reverence and commitment. Her expression was filled with quiet resolve and unspoken vow to carry this message forward in her life and hers. The camera lingered, capturing the shimmering light illuminating her featuresse, a symbol of hope's quiet victory. In that profound silence, the scene seemed to pause, a gentle testament that justice, when nurtured with compassion and understanding, can truly transform pain into peace. The last visual shot was Lena, the mural, and the community united in silent respect, eternally etched into the fabric of their shared story, a story of resilience, healing, and the unbreakable strength of hope. Have you ever discovered a secret that changed everything? Share your story below.